It was like some kind of music video. The three members of Guns N' Roses were stumbling out of Slash was shit-faced. Matt was probably shit-faced. And they were stumbling out of the strip club. And I was like, what's going on? I just got here. They're like, they kicked us out. Slash jumped on the stage and started stripping on the pole.
I find your lack of how disturbing.
My name is Darth.
Whiskey.
That's the stupidest name I've ever heard.
Welcome back, Dum Dum.
The Dojo is real?
Down, down, down.
Hello there. Welcome to Dum Dum Dojo. I'm your host, Darth Whiskey, and thank you again for joining me. It is currently 5:32 in the morning, and I am tired as fuck. For the past 6-7 hours, God, it's been even longer than that maybe. I've been working with my friend Rocco Guarino to give you guys the episode that you guys are about to watch. There was a butt-fuck ton of technical difficulties, and we rambled for a whole lot. And the reason that I think we were able to so successfully waste our time for 6-7 hours is because Rocco is one of my best friends in the whole fucking world. Rocco is an amazing producer, engineer, video director, songwriter, all the good shit, who I met in the Myspace era of the internet back in like 2006, 2007. He was working with my favorite band in the world at the time, which was Velvet Revolver. Featured Scott Weiland from SCP and Slash and a couple of the other members from Guns N' Roses. And their debut album, Contraband, which came out in like 2004. That's the album that I listened to nonstop on repeat. I'm talking about 4 or 5 times a day, fumbling through with my guitar, trying my best to duplicate the sounds and failing miserably. But it's that record which I learned how to play the instrument to. And so it's a really special record to me in that time period in my life when I was transitioning from this is an after school hobby that I do as a kid to this is something that I want to make my career, my livelihood, and spend the rest of my life chasing. And Rocco was such a huge part of that. He was so influential and so helpful and patient. Even though I've known the guy for 12 years, there's shit that I learned about him through this conversation, which we'd never spoken about before. And that was a lot of fun. And we talk about all sorts of crazy tour stories, and there's a lot of incriminating shit that I got to cut out of here. But it was a lot of fun talking to Rocco and catching up, especially now. It's been a weird feeling, with this COVID bullshit. And, everybody out there is going to be doing whatever's comfortable to them. But me personally, I've been playing it real safe and playing it real by the book. So getting the chance to catch up with Rocco and bullshit for a couple hours, even through the Zoom technical difficulties, was a blast. This is the part where I remind you that if you're having fun, if you're enjoying the show, please hit the like button, the subscribe button, the thumbs up, whatever it is that you're supposed to do to indicate to the algorithmic overlords that run the internet that you dig this thing. Do those things. If you're listening to the audio only version of this is the part where I tell you to pause the shit and go watch the full video version on YouTube, which is a lot more fun. As always, if you want to link up or stay in touch, you can find me on Instagram at Darth Whiskey. Send me a message. Tell me how you're liking the show. If there's something about the show that you love, there's a joke that didn't hit you right, there's a joke that really made your dick tickle particularly made your dick tickle, particular dick tickle. Thank you again for joining me, and welcome to the dojo. Look at, dude, I can't believe you're wearing more jewelry than I am.
That's crazy.
It's the first time for everything. I'm anxious and I'm excited for the next time I get to dress up and throw some John Varvatos on and go.
Oh, dude! I know,
all the lame. I should tread carefully. The stuff that I took for granted, or maybe felt was a little bit too cheesy back in the day of like your Sunset Strip. It's Monday night on the Sunset Strip. What kind of adventures are we gonna? I remember I would get ready for a night out and be like, fucking go into the Viper room. I gotta put on my leather jacket, my 14 accessories. And then feeling in the middle of that, like, this is a lot, right? This is a lot of extra shit that's just not necessary. And then you get to the place and it's like, I gotta pay how much to park here? You know what I mean? And then I start doing the math and the pros and cons in my head. I was like, how much money am I spending to resent this?
To feel bad about myself the next day.
But I miss it, man. I miss that fucking corner liquor store.
Speaking of parking, I kind of want to let the cat out of the bag after 20 years because I think Gwyneth Paltrow made like a no swearing zone private club or something out of where the Hustler. No
way. So the spot got nixed.
She's going to be, it got nixed. So I can say it now that for 20 years I parked at the Hustler with like maybe the same other 12 cars that I would see there on a Friday or Saturday night.
Pre-lockdown. like maybe a month or two, I was out with a female companion, and we thought it would be fun to go to the Pleasure Chest. Have you been there before? The sex store on Santa Monica. For those of you who aren't aware, there's a really famous Los Angeles sex store called the Pleasure Chest, and it's like a big ass neon sign. It says fucking like dildos here or some shit. And we go in and like you do what fucking kids do when you go into a dildo store. And you're like dildos.
Yeah.
But I had to wash my hands, and so I went to the bathroom and I washed my hands. It was far and beyond the most jizz-like any hand soap has ever looked. And I'm like, oh, this is definitely intentional. Here, Santa Monica, West Hollywood. This is. I've tried to start this episode a gazillion times, and the numerous times that I've tried to get this thing off the ground and fail miserably is kind of indicative to my style of working with my guest here in the studio, which is, let's do it again. Let me get it one more. Now I got it. I'll get the next one. And this is the take. Tell us a little bit about who you are, how we know each other, your name, et cetera, all the good stuff.
Rocco Guarino, producer, engineer. So we met in 2007 on MySpace.
You've got mail.
And I was working with a band called Velvet Revolver, and I guess today you'd call it a social media manager, but the only social media then was MySpace.
A website, yeah. I hit you up on MySpace, and then what happens?
Yeah, you wanted me to produce your record, and I listened to it, and I was fucking shocked because I thought, first of all, most of the stuff you get is 99.9% of it is terrible. Most musicians are really bad. Like, it's just a numbers game, right?
Contraband's the album that taught me how to play guitar. I learned how to play the instrument to that record. And for most people, that's a new record. It came out 2003, 4. And I remember the year that it came out, like its competitors were Green Day, American Idiot. And I think Maroon 5's debut record, which was massive. It had all the big like Sunday Morning and This Love, and VR did some kind of end of the year awards show on VH1, MTV, something like that. And the other performances or something like that were Maroon 5.
2004
Green
VH1.
Day.
Oh, here it is. Holy shit, that's crazy. Big in 04 VH1.
Wow.
And they gave me a crew thing, and I was pissed because I always got the artist ones. Anyway, well, I had to because I always had to be by Scott's side. So if I didn't have the same credential he had, then
yeah, exactly.
we'd get separated at some point in the venue, and that was no bueno.
Right. I would have been 15, 16, 14, anywhere from like 14, 15, 16 at the time. And I wanted you to produce my record for me. And I'd essentially cut an album with somebody else, and I wasn't happy with it. I'm sure had I been able to articulate like, hey, I don't like how the compressor sounds in the kick drum, whatever it is, or XYZ is too squished or whatever. I'd have been able to iron those things out. But I'm glad that I got to work with you because this kicked us off down a path of a friendship that has lasted now fucking 12 years.
Has it been 12 years?
So, but as a disclaimer, I think that music's all dog shit. This is stuff that I was making when I was like 6.
I'd have to listen to it again. I haven't heard it probably since we made it. Dude.
I can't listen to it. Whenever I listen to old shit that I've done that I know I dislike now. It's not just that it's bad, but like I'm clearly 16 and I've clearly heard 4 albums in my life and Slash has played on 3 of them. You know what I'm saying? At venues where it would permit in terms of like weather. Yeah, of course I'm coming out with a leather jacket first 2-3 songs and cause that's my body armor. That's my superhero costume. After song 1, you are drenched in sweat. And then I remember being on the side of the stage, like in between song breaks, like I got to do a guitar change here, but I got to take fucking 20 seconds to rip this jacket off because I'm gonna die. And then because you're sweating, it's like sticking to you. And I'm sitting here trying to get my jacket off, and then fucking Jamie's over there, and he's not gonna wait for me to start the click. 2, 3, 4, and I got to be ready.
Damn.
But I remember that the idea of course you wear a leather jacket for the first 2-3 songs. That comes from Mr. Slash. Right. And then I always remember thinking like, man, how is he not hot? How did his sunglasses not fall off? How does his hat not fall off? These are all things that a professional figures the fuck out after a couple years of doing it. And so much of that, man, is like still very informed by these early memories. You were a big part of a growth process for me of transitioning from I'm a kid and this is a hobby and this is a thing that I like and this is like an idyllic lifestyle that I want to, one day when I grow up, I want to be a pro, right? And transitioning from like, this is something that I want to do someday to this is something I do. Dude, like I think about this.
Yeah.
This just dawned on me. You got me my first session gig. This would have been with the band from New Jersey.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
it was like friend of a friend of yours, and hey, they need a guitar player to fill in. I said, fucking, let's do it. I'm here.
And then you played at the Whiskey with them.
I did. That was, I don't remember being as nervous. I remember being more nervous for things that I did after that than I was for that. I don't know why.
It was probably because it was like Monday night and it was 8 o'clock and it was empty.
6 people. Yeah. That's more freaky to me though. And I maintain that to this day. When I have to play a smaller show and I can see everybody's face, that shit's terrifying.
Yeah, for sure.
I think I'd done like backyard barbecues and birthday party, like just birthday, I'm going to play a song for myself kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But your first like venue out of venue.
Yeah. I mean,
cool.
first, hey, you've been hired by this band to play, you know,
Yeah.
you're going to be offered money to play music for somebody else. That was a huge experience for me. And I felt so cool and so proud.
And you did great, dude. You killed it, bro.
A lot of hairspray back then, but your friendships meant so much to me over the past couple of years, dude. And it's so
likewise,
cool.
man.
It's cool for me to now be at a completely different stage in my life than when like I met you. There's cats that I'll meet or come across working through music who are younger than me, and they'll ask similar questions as to like stuff that I asked you, or like
right.
Like I want to give a shout out to my boy Mihailo, who you introduced me to. This cat is like huge and looks like a Viking, and he's a shredder of a player.
Yeah.
This band that needed 2 guitar players, you brought me in, and you brought Mihailo in, and the kid nailed it, man. It was so cool to be working on a session with you, and then also get to watch him doing the same thing. And just being in, like, I found myself being in the middle of like, dude, there's the grandmaster, and then here's the
3
fucking young
generations.
Padawan. It's like, and then the feeling of us all being together in that room, making a thing, you know what I mean? And how I do some shit where I'd be like, this is lame. Then you guys be like, oh no, this is awesome. And then he would pull some like fucking Scorpion shredder shit, and he's like, no, I don't like that. I'm like, yeah, that's cool, dude. You gotta keep that. That was a fun day. So prior to me hitting you up on MySpace, give me a rundown. Give me a rundown. Like, how did tell me how you got started in music?
I grew up in upstate New York.
Poughkeepsie, right?
I was born in Poughkeepsie. Yeah.
Upstate New York names, they I mean, all words are made up, but they sound like completely made up.
Like made up more recently?
Yeah, no, but I mean, like, the fuck is a Yonkers? The fuck is Yonkers? You know how Poughkeepsie is spelled? This is how the pronunciation of my first name will always get fucked up. Because in this situation, P-O-U is puh, as in Poughkeepsie.
That's right.
You do not fucking pronounce my name as puh. Don't pronounce it as puh-o.
You don't say Poughkeepsie. Started playing keyboards and guitar. I think I was 12 when I learned my first song. And it was Good Times, Bad Times. Played it with can't really even call it a band because just me and a drummer.
Hell yeah.
The first album I ever bought was The Cars. And then I grew up listening to the shit my older brother listened to, which was like Bob Seger and Steve Miller and Queen. And then I started listening, like discovering my own shit was like metal, you know, Ronnie James Dio.
Fuck yeah.
Black Sabbath. But I was also super into Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
Huh.
So we go back and forth between Crosby, Stills, Nash and like Quiet Riot, you know, and just whatever. Yeah.
So was it mostly rock and stuff, or would you fuck with, like when New Edition came out with a new single, you're like, oh, this is tight?
No, I wasn't into pop music.
Huh.
No, it was all about rock. It's also into rap. And then I went through a phase after the rock was like interrupted for a minute by like early hip hop, you know, and rap. Sugar Hill Gang, you know, The Message.
Wow.
And I would be great. There's a video on YouTube that you can cut to if you want. I'll send you a link. But it's a video of me and my best friend Don breakdancing on roller skates at the Derby.
This would have been like Roxanne days, right?
Yeah, well, it was like Shannon, Let the Music Play. Remember that song?
Not a fucking clue.
But yeah, Roxanne, yeah. Yeah. And then and I was wearing like these tight ass like sweet oars. They were these pants called have you ever seen these pants called sweet oars?
They're like bell bottoms?
No, they're tight.
Yikes.
They had a lot of pockets. It was the 80s. So I had those, and I had like the red Michael Jackson jacket with all the zippers on it.
Oh my God, that's fantastic.
And we tried to do some weird breakdancing moves. It was awkward. But the first record I ever bought with my own money, I went down to the Hopewell Pharmacy in Hopewell Junction, and I bought The Cars first album.
Nice.
The one with the chick with the red nails on the clear steering wheel. It blew me away. It had just what I needed, and moving in stereo, and best friend's girlfriend, and I never really listened to pop music, and I always made rock. But then when I started writing, like as a songwriter, I've always written pop music. It's just a weird thing. I don't know why. And I think a part of that probably is because so there was this big thing when I was a kid called the Columbia House Music Club, and it was this thing that they would send you like in your parents' magazine. You take it out and then you open it up, and it's got all these albums you choose from.
You pay like a nickel for them, right?
A penny or something. They just send it to you and they bill you for a penny or something. And I would just do that repeatedly over and over. Most of the stuff in there was greatest hits compilations. I was thinking about the other day, this probably influenced why I have more of a pop sensibility in terms of music, is because I grew up on just listening to only the hits. All my friends were in a band and I played keyboards and managed the band. And we were called Unleashed. But then there was also like a big heavy metal band that was called Unleashed, so we couldn't use the name. We went and recorded 4 songs up in upstate New York at a studio. It was in a big A-frame house. I can't remember the name of it. Oh my God, I wish I could find this place online. But Ace Frehley used to do a lot of solo records there. It was somewhere in upstate New York, I think. A couple hours away, and we all went there and slept there. And that was one of like probably 4 or 5 albums that I've made in my life, that like residential studios where you go away.
Oh, wow.
And go somewhere.
That's a process. I would love to do it that way.
I love it. I've done so many records like that, including the one I'm currently working on. So that was my first experience in a pro studio, you know. But before that, I was in studios a lot with my mom because she was a singer, and so she recorded like 3 albums worth of stuff. And so I was always just in the studio with her and just falling asleep on the floor or whatever as a little kid, and then, you know, I saw how happy she was. That was like her happiest place, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think that obviously definitely rubbed off on me. And then my mom ended up going to, fast forwarding a little bit, but she ended up going to Full Sail Center for the Recording Arts in Orlando, Florida. Yeah. So yeah, I definitely, all that shit I got from my mom. My obsession with recording studios in general. Yeah, for sure.
So I didn't know that your mom was like as deep into music like that as you are.
I mean, we've written songs together. We've sang songs together. And she would always give me, you know, notes whenever I would send her a new song. You know, there's a story that I don't really tell that often. I'm sure I've told you.
Is it Journey?
No, it's
Foreigner.
No, I don't know how old I was. We were driving in the car. We're in Hopewell Junction again, and my mom kind of freaked out a little bit because the song came on the radio and she knew the lyrics. So she pulled over and was like kind of upset. You know, I didn't really know what was going on because I was really little. Basically, long story short, she wrote the song, trying to figure out who it was, you know, because they don't always, you got to wait to see if they announce what the song was.
Right. Or sometimes they go on to the next song, they don't tell you.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can't, like nowadays, you go on the website and there's a history of all the songs.
Or nowadays, the radio in your car has a fucking TV screen.
It fucking says it with the goddamn music video playing in fucking quadraphonic sound. So we go back home and she's up in the attic for a long time, shuffling through papers. And then she finds this sheet of lyrics because she was a songwriter. When she was 16, she snuck out, ran away, went down to New York City to try to get like a record deal as a singer-songwriter. And she was a great songwriter. And she knew that her parents were going to kill her, you know, because conservative Catholic, you know. The guy started hitting on her or whatever. And she left her book there, her songbook. And then the dude ended up taking one of the songs.
So what was the song?
Love Hurts.
Love Hurts.
Yeah.
Damn.
So she wrote that for my dad when they were like 16.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, what was the band? Nazareth. So she obviously didn't have any of her stuff copyrighted. And then, you know, all she had to do was just sign it. If she would have just signed it, or because, you know, they can date the ink, but they can't tell who typed it. It was a typewriter thing. So.
Damn.
So that was the end of that.
That's brutal.
And then, so I was in bands. I was always in bands, keyboards and metal bands. So I had my Akai X7000 sampler. Oh, and I started with production. I had a 4-track. I was also an Akai 4-track. And then I had another Akai synthesizer. I had a lot of Akai shit. And so, and then now I just bought this.
Yeah.
And now I've gone full circle back to Akai. What?
I wish I knew how to properly fucking use this thing.
I haven't even plugged it in yet, so we'll see what happens. You know, they have one that has sounds built in. I should have got that one. I'm kind of regretting it. You know?
I don't at all regret that I got the black and red one. I was like, I think I'm going to get tired of this one day. And then I ended up outfitting the Dojo to be all black and red. And I'm like, all right, cool. Color schemes matching. Excellent.
Of course. Absolutely. So I was playing bass, keys with my band Unleashed. We got a school bus. We ripped out the seats, painted it white, and put the logo on it. We'd show up to gigs with it, party in it. We drove it to Florida. My mom was building a recording studio in Florida. So I stayed in Florida for probably 12 years or something. And then my mom put me in rehab when I was 16.
Yikes.
Yeah.
What kind of fun were you having?
Oh man, way too much.
It's a good way to ask that question, right? I mean, I'll say this, not to make light of the subject. I am very grateful for the kind of people I had around me that kept my head on straight when I was younger. And you were one of those fucking people. Like, you could have very easily corrupted my impressionable young soul. You know what I mean? And motherfucking not like you didn't try. You know what I mean? Like, there may or may not be some things that you have encouraged me to do for a real long time that I've only recently begun to acknowledge the benefits of.
Right.
We haven't gotten to acknowledge those benefits together too much, especially in recent times. But man, when that farm of acknowledgements that you got in your backyard, when those acknowledgements grow, we're going to acknowledge the shit out of those.
Yeah, I was just doing a lot of drugs, man. Doing a lot of acid. A lot of mescaline.
How old are you at this time?
I was 15.
Dude.
16.
What does a 15, 16-year-old get up to when you're on acid?
Oh, man. Staring at your hands, staring in the mirror.
Sounds pretty harmless.
It was harmless, yeah. Potheads are pretty docile and cool and friendly and stuff, People don't rob banks to buy weed,
I mean, I'm considering my options right now, but I think with COVID, the security measures are even crazier than they used to be. So it doesn't really look like it's a viable option at this moment.
So when I got out of rehab in Florida, then I really started doing music like in earnest. And then eventually I opened a studio, or I was in the process of opening a studio. Never got fully opened. And this was in Clearwater, Florida. Me and my mom had a handful of studios in Florida, around the Tampa Bay area. Recording studios, like small ones, My main time really learning music was in Florida, I guess. Really, Like I lived in a trailer on a farm with my friend Blaine, and we started recording songs in the horse barn. And so when he relapsed, then we broke up our music, thing. And then there's a picture of me packing up all my stuff, being all sad. My mom took a picture.
Aww.
Jumped in my car with $900 and just hit the road, man. I was working at Tires Plus. I was doing cross-relational database reconciliation, super boring shit. I worked at IBM. I worked at DuPont Semiconductor. I had all these, corporate jobs, and I made really good money, man.
Dude.
And this was the 80s too. So this was when everybody had a ton of money.
Right.
So, I had stick-ass cars and all this, traded it all in for a life of brokenness and misery and music.
Fucking Pro Tools errors. God. That's some cowboy shit. That's like some protagonist in a music video, fuck it, I'm hitting the road shit. That is a very perverse fantasy that I've had for many years of what does the alternate timeline look like in which I say, fuck this, I fake my own death, right? And then I move to Kansas and cut my hair and cover these tattoos up as much as possible. And I'm not this guy. I'm not this guy. I'm just fucking Ted who works at the bank. How different could the trajectory of my life have turned out with certain choices? I think about if my sister doesn't have certain CDs in her CD player at the time that I decided to go into her room and snoop around like a little brother, I probably don't steal Appetite for Destruction. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it was either she had the actual cassette with the artwork on it, or I looked it up afterwards. I'm talking about the OG Appetite for Destruction.
The original one that they banned.
It's a fucking Carnage symbiote, and it's real grimy. And I don't know if my sister had that, but I remember at some point seeing that and being horrified, but then also super interested because this music is so cool. And I loved, and to this day, still have such a soft spot for the way the mix of Appetite sits, and specifically the way that the room sounds, the certain echo and the feel of it. It feels so, God, this is cheesy. It feels so live and alive. Yeah. And you hear the urgency, I'm thinking specifically about the cowbell in Welcome to the Jungle. You hear this huge surrounding expansive reverb, and it feels like there's shit coming all around you, and the slide guitar parts. And I remember feeling it this way. Also, I was watching the music videos along. I'm I would download them illegally on Kazaa. I don't know if you remember that, or like LimeWire at the time.
I remember it, yeah.
These music videos and this music did such a good job at world building and making this universe in which this thing exists. And I was so interested.
Especially with a budget like GNR had back then.
I can't fucking imagine how much it cost to rent a battleship. To rent trained dolphins to swim with Axl Rose. You can't just get dolphins. They have to know not to butt fuck the guy when he's underwater. You know what I mean? They gotta know to turn the camera and wink and then blowhole.
Oh man, it had been so much money. Maybe if it wasn't 2:30 right now, I would text one of them.
No, of course not. And we're gonna get to music videos involving those guys, which you might have some experience with. That's a gutsy move to say, fuck this, I gotta change my life. Do you remember a lot about making that decision? Like, was that a decision you came to like in a day, or like were things bubbling up for a while, then you finally one day woke up and said, fuck it?
It was brewing for a minute.
Sure.
It was, there's been 3 or 4 times in my life that I've gone through like major life changes, or, personal on a personal level, or where your soul just kind of goes.
And it pushes the pause/reset button on everything.
Yeah, there's been a lot of moments like that. One of my first one was probably rehab. That was life-changing, because I stayed clean and sober for 20 years after that, from 16 to 36. So it's totally,
record.
Yeah. Did my 2 decades. Fun story about that too. But anyway, I'll tell you later. So when I turned 30, it hit me pretty heavy. And then, I wasn't happy with my relationship, wasn't happy with my job. And 9/11 happened, and that was heavy. And by the end of the next following year, I was just like, I got to get out of here, And I had my acoustic guitar, and I would sell my CDs and have a tip jar, and I'd get me enough, gas or whatever to the next town. Then I went and saw my friend Panhead in Wichita, and I was there for he had a bunch of gear and didn't really know how to use it. So I helped him put a studio together and was there for 3 months. And then I met some folks there, and then I moved out to LA with them. So yeah, I arrived in LA. I think it was like a September of 03. I moved to Tustin, and I lived with my friend Bo. One of my first gigs that Bo got me was unloading trucks for a big festival it was like the Harley Davidson 100th anniversary tour or something. It was a bunch of bands. And one of the first trucks I unloaded when I got to LA was STP.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I did that gig, and then I ended up getting a gig running sound at the LA County Fair, and my car broke down. I had a Saturn. It was a white Saturn. I called her Able Mabel. She took me across the country. Besides Bo, I knew one person. That was this dude, Mike, that I had talked to on the phone 3 months before. And I hit him up. I was like, hey, remember me? Blah, 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 blah. So, he was New York, Italian, and, we got along. And so we hit it off. And so he's like, yeah, sure. So he drove out to Pomona, or wherever the fuck I was.
Yeah.
Picked my ass up. The tow truck took my car, and on the way back, he was like, hey, my friend's name is Doug Grion, and he works with Scott Weiland, and they have a studio together in Burbank. Do you want to stop by on the way back before I drop you off? And I was like, yeah, fuck yeah. So that's what we did. And then, and Doug needed an assistant, and I was an engineer. And so Doug, took me under his wing and hired me and gave me my first gig working with Scott. And then Scott was out on tour, and then when he came back from tour, he needed kind of like a sober coach type of person, and I was sober. So when Scott got back, I would drive him around in my Saturn and pick him up at rehab, go back to his apartment, work out, go to the studio.
Let's talk a little bit about Lavish for a second. This was Scott's personal studio. Do you know what year he got it? He had it. I mean, I'm sure when Rockstar money started flowing, he was like, all right, cool. I need a spot for myself.
Yeah.
And it was like
mid 90s. Yeah.
It was previously like an air conditioning factory or some shit like that, right?
It was a machine shop, I think.
It wasn't super ritzy or clinical feeling. It was real grungy feel. And I imagine, I don't think I ever even saw it at the peak of the grunge. I very gratefully got to spend a lot of time with you there, just fucking around and trying out sounds and working on a lot of music. So tell me about the early VR, because you were there for the entirety of VR, Velvet Revolver, right? Him getting the phone calls of, hey, I think these dudes want to do something.
Yeah. I worked at Guitar Center on Sunset Boulevard, GC 101. I was working at Lavish with Doug, and he was producing a girl named Emma. He asked if I would run monitors for rehearsals for them. And so my boss wouldn't let me do it. So I just left. I went out for lunch and I left.
Wait, as in he wouldn't give you the day off?
He wouldn't let me leave halfway through.
Uh-huh.
So I just left, went to lunch, never came back.
Magnificent.
Yeah, and I quit. Actually, before that happened, one day I was working at a Guitar Center and I got a call right before we were closing, and the guy was working on a movie and his mixer went down. So I grabbed like a little Mackie mixer, and I brought it to him. We closed up at 8 or 9 or whatever, and I drove to this address that he gave me. I had my Samsung flip phone or whatever it was, and I had my Thomas guide.
Yeah.
If anybody's ever lived in LA, has a Thomas guide.
It's the big booklet motherfucker with like grids and shit.
It's a book, yeah. So when people ask you where you live, you could say E5. I show up, so I walk into this movie, and here I am for the first time, and pretty new in town. And I walk into this movie lot, and there's like strippers and porn stars and giant, oversized, big dildos and like.
What kind of Charlie Sheen fucking movie was this?
I know, and it turned out it was a movie called The Girl Next Door.
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
Matt, please, Matt, fuck her for me.
Yeah, so I walked onto the set. I was like, where the fuck kind of movie you guys making, man? That's crazy.
Awesome.
And so there was a scene in the movie where they go to like AVN or some porn convention. Yeah. And that's what they had turned an entire soundstage into, a porn convention.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, and that was the set. So that guy, I think his name was Peter, he took me under his wing and he let me go there. So I would...
Wait, so by you bringing that little Mackie mixer, did you save the production that day on Girl Next Door?
I did indeed, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Indeed. Yeah. And he was asking me questions. What do you think about, Mackie versus Behringer and all this other shit, Mm-hmm. We talked shop and we hit it off. And
dude,
so he let me come for like a month straight. Every day I went to set and I couldn't get paid. I couldn't work because it was union.
Right.
And, but he taught me the ropes. I just hung out with him, and he was the production sound mixer, and he had a boom up and he had a cable wrangler and a boom up.
Have you spoken to him recently?
Oh God, no, it's been years.
Dude, you should hit him up. Be like, yo, hope you're doing all right.
I totally should. Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I did every day. I would go, I had credentials, and I would eat with the crew and the cast and director and stuff. And, it was fucking awesome. I had no clue how that shit was done, and here I am in this huge movie, and then this was before Emil Hirsch wasn't anything. No one had heard of him.
I love him. No, he's magnificent.
Oh, he's great. And the chick, Alicia Cuthbert.
Yeah.
Yep. So I think that was one of her first ones. And so it was amazing. It was great. It was an incredible experience, And those were the coolest times when I would always call my folks back in Florida and be like, look at this, what I'm doing or whatever.
Yeah.
It was so cool. And all my friends back home were like, holy shit, you guys hear what Rocco's doing or whatever.
Yeah. I'm grateful. Like, I'm sure that you are grateful that I had people that I could call that were stoked for me, Yeah. And that kind of encouragement that kept me going, knowing that there was a team out there a couple 100 miles away, whatever it is, that they're rooting for you.
Rooting for you. Yeah. Yeah. That's the weirdest things about both my folks being gone now is my first instinct whenever something really cool happens is to pick up the phone,
Yeah.
But so I was working at Guitar Center, and then Doug asked me if I would run monitors for Emma, and he wouldn't let me leave, so I just left. And then I needed a job because the Emma thing was done, and then I got a job across the street working with Will Walsh, my buddy who was a manager at Manny's. And then one day I went to Lavish, and Doug said that the guys from Guns N' Roses are coming in tomorrow, and they're going to jam with Scott, see what happens. Maybe do a project, do something together, do a song or something maybe. And it was all very tentative, With Scott's history with rehab and in and out and whatever. Nobody had really had any high hopes or anything. It was just kind of a trial thing, I think it was part of it put together by Kathy Nelson, who was a music supervisor, and she was friends with Dana Define. And
so was it partly like the label wanted to put something together?
No, it was for soundtrack for the Hulk.
Right. Yes, this is, by the way, this is free. The one of the 2 Hulk movies that we as a fandom just say, no, we're not going to give a fuck about.
Oh, yeah. It's not good. Yeah, it didn't count. So they did a song called Set Me Free.
Magnificent. Great song.
Yeah.
We have a guy in our crew. We have a great fucking crew, let me tell you. We're not your regular rolling rock and roll band. We're a little bit more like a roller coaster. It's a good ride, though. We got a great crew that goes right along with it. But we got this one guy named Rocco. We fucking love him, man, because he's fucking hilarious. Guy's got the best fucking sense of humor in the whole goddamn fucking planet. God bless Rocco. And this one's for him. He was here in the beginning of this band along with a couple other guys, and this is called Set Me Free.
And so, yeah, it worked out great. His voice just really gelled with what they were doing, you know. That's when I first met, you know, all the guys. And Dave Kushner and McBob, who was Duff's bass tech.
When was it like, hey, I'm going out on the road with VR?
They said, okay, let's come in like 2 to 6 Monday through Friday.
That's a lot of pre-pro.
Well, no, it was just like, we were just trying to see if it was
I mean,
work.
that's a lot of pre-pro, you know what I mean? It's strange to me to think that a band of musicians that were that established took that long to figure out whether or not they wanted to do something together. But that's cool.
I mean, I think part of it was they just wanted to make sure Scott was going to be okay. You know, he was having a hard time at the time, you know. Mm-hmm. And they had like 50, 60 something songs that they had put together because there was a whole documentary about them trying to find a singer and stuff like that. And then it started to look like it was going to stick, you know. And then so it was called The Project. And it was born. There was no name. Mm-hmm. There was no band name. And then, so David Cotico and Dana Define started putting the word out. And so basically all the labels, you know, all the majors wanted to sign it. You know, we ended up going with Clive Davis. Clive flew out from New York to Burbank to Lavish, pulls up in a big limo.
Wow.
With his boyfriends. And they sat on the pool table. That was at Lavish and the band played and I ran sound for Clive and, then it was official and it was a band. And then Scott came up with the name, I think. Kind of whittled the songs down, you know. The band would play. Scott wasn't there a lot of times, you know. So the band would play and Adam Day would record everything onto a CD and then give it to Doug. And Doug would put it in Pro Tools and like him and Scott would chop up the songs, like a rearrange them if he wanted to rearrange it a little bit. And then record his vocals on it, you know. And then give it back to the band. And most of the time they liked it and they would relearn it with the new arrangement, rehearse it with Scott a couple times and then put that one in the bag and then kind of on to the next one, you know.
And there was like 30, 40, 50 of those, you said?
I think they had like 65 songs or something. We did drums and bass Energy to 2-inch tape, which was awesome. And that was the Energy, the B room, which is one of my favorite rooms in town.
I remember reading a story, something about Eddie Kramer, that came in for a day and like rearranged Matt's kit for one of the ballads or something like that. Right. Yeah,
so he was Eddie Kramer, famous record producer, engineer.
Hendrix, Stones, Beatles, everybody.
I mean, Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Oh, his big claim to fame was Hendrix. Like he helped him build Electric Ladyland Studios for Hendrix in New York City. So he was in one of the rooms. I think he was in the C room, which is like the mix room at Energy. And Energy is a recording studio in North Hollywood. So he was there that day, you know, and he came in and we were doing drums. And Matt had 2 kits set up for the whole record. One was like a big rock kit, and the other one was like a weird little vibey kit. And we were going to do, I don't remember what song, Probably Loving the Aliens.
I think that's the one.
Or
I know it's the one. I want to pretend like I don't know it's the one. It's the one.
It is? Okay, cool. Okay, good, because I wasn't sure, because there's a handful of like vibey ones that were weird and vibey. So yeah, Eddie was there, and Matt, you know, Matt's like super outgoing, and Matt Sorum, the drummer. He went over and just was like, hey, Eddie, I don't know if you knew him or not already. Before that, probably did. But he had him come over, and Eddie came over, and he mic'd up Matt's drum kit the same way he used to mic up. Oh, yeah, of course, because it was the same way he mic'd up fucking John Bonham's kit.
Oof. Wow.
From Led Zeppelin. And then that's the same.
And then it was, don't fucking touch that kit.
Don't touch it. You will die.
If you touch my drums, I will stab you in the neck with a knife.
Yeah. And then another thing that happened while we were Energy making Contraband was the DeLeo. So STP had just broken up and Scott was fired or quit or whatever. I can't remember. It's like 2002. They were in the B room at one point also mixing something like a band they were producing or something. The DeLeo brothers, Robert and Dean, who were the 2 brothers, guitar and bass player and Stunt Double pilots. At that point, I was Scott's personal assistant, 24 hours on call, you know? And then when the band was together, like at the studio or whatever, they had their techs for their stuff, but there was no band assistant. So I was also like the band assistant as well, just helped out wherever I could, you know? And so I had to tell Scott that the DeLeo brothers were in the next room. And so he wrote a letter and I had to go give it to him. And it was really cool. It was really great. And then they made peace and it was nice.
Oh, I thought it was going to be a nasty fuck you letter and you had to be the one to give it to him. Like,
no,
I'm not saying this, somebody else is, but apparently, fuck you guys. Like,
No, I've had to deliver some of those letters too. You know, like different areas of the stage you're not allowed to go on, and like, you know, publishing splits and all that kind of shit. Like just weird, uncomfortable shit I got stuck in the middle of all the time. So they made up, everything was cool, and then so we're in the lounge. And so like when you're at Energy, the A room has its own dope ass lounge with a pool table and shit.
yes.
If you're in the B room,
Man, the NRG Christmas party is something that I look forward to every year that we're lucky enough to get to go. And
legendary.
So much fun. They had Black Santa and an actual reindeer the last time I was there. It was awesome.
I don't know if Duff and Robert DeLeo had known each other already or if they had just met. Robert was laying on the couch and Duff went in there and just like laid on top of him and snuggled him and spooned him. It was amazing. This is a lot of good memories. Like I remember we were all sitting around the lounge, you know, one day after lunch and we were watching stuff on TV and Pearl Jam came on. And me and Scott were standing there, and I mean, the whole band was there, Slash stuff, everybody met. And Scott was like, you know, he said something about for, you know, as much flack that he got for sounding like Eddie, he's like, it's kind of a compliment because Eddie's got such a great voice, got such control over his voice. I always like hearing rock stars talk about other rock stars or actors talk about other actors.
I can appreciate the ways in which I look up to my musical heroes. I got deep ass reasons as to why John Mayer's playing hits me so hard, Gary Clark's playing hits me so hard, whatever it is, right? Like, or at least I'd feel it that hard, that heavy. And they do too. And just because they won and they got to sell a bunch of records and stuff doesn't mean that, you know, there aren't albums that make them think about being in a Denny's with their parents. And
it's interesting watching your heroes fanboy out on their heroes. Being in the room to watch that, you know.
So you worked with VR for a really long time. What, like 04?
02 to 08, I think, or 03 to 08.
And then after that, you worked with Scott and STP when they got back together for a bit, right?
Yep. We did the STP reunion tour in 2009 and did videos for it and stuff, and promo videos and shit. And then I went on tour with the band as the photographer, videographer.
Oh, hey, I need to splice this in. So pretend we haven't finished talking about VR yet. You also directed a video for them, right?
I did, yeah. Indeed.
Tell me about that.
Yep. Oh, man. So the song was the second single released off of the second album, Libertad. Mm-hmm. The song was called The Last Fight. Mm-hmm. I always had a camera, you know, like a point and shoot. It was like a Canon power shot or some shit. And we just take pictures of whatever, you know, Scott, the band, live, traveling, airports, whatever, backstage. And the guys really dug what I was doing. So then I started editing little documentaries for them, and they really dug that. And that kind of grew into like, will you write a treatment for one of our music videos? So I wrote the treatment, and, you know, I think the guys dug it. It was, you know, a little abstract and esoteric, I think. Just how I saw the song, you know, it was just like what came to my mind and what I thought would be a cool way to portray the meaning of the song.
So tell me about that a little bit. What, like?
Yeah, we were making the second album, Libertad. Scott lost his younger brother. He OD'd, and then Matt Sorum lost his younger brother also while we were making the record, cancer. And so the song was called The Last Fight. It's about his brother. My concept or treatment for it was pretty elaborate, and then we had to cut it way, 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 way back because the budget was small. Anyway, so I wrote the treatment, and they kind of dug it, and Scott absolutely loved it. And so he fought for me like he always did, you know.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, he called up the video commissioner, and I think he had to talk to Clive at one point and just be like, you know, let him do it. You know, I'd done some photos for the band, and like I said, little mini like vlogs, video blogs and shit like that. It was pretty on the nose, you know. It was about losing a battle. They had experienced these deaths in the family, so I wanted to kind of tie it back, and I wanted it to be meaningful and personal. So I did a bunch of research, and I learned about this Taiwanese ritual called the Guanlingshu ritual, I think, and it's basically where they put red blindfolds over. They go to a prayer. I don't know if it's a prayer, but it's more like a ceremony, and to try to reach the dead, try to talk to the dead, communicate with the deceased. So that's kind of what I based the video on. And I wanted all the guys to bring something that meant something to them, that was personal to them in real life, you know, like a journal or a ring or whatever. And I was going to implement it into the video. Well, anyway, the treatment ended up getting cut way down, like way, way, way down. So like, you know, Zeppelin's my all-time favorite band. And so they had their movie called The Song Means the Same. And each band member had their little montage or their little, you know, movie. And so So that's why I kind of want to do this just real quick in the song. Scott loved it. And then I figured they would have some famous director direct it, you know, because I hadn't really done anything but like video blogs for them at that point, literally in my life. Yeah, they helped me buy a computer. They lent me the $4,000. I buy a computer, Melrose Mac, and then I just took it out of my paycheck, you know, and I just started filming everything. And yeah, the first shit I've ever done was like getting put in the world. So very intimidating. But yeah, so anyway, so then Scott said, you know, dude, you should just direct it, you know. And so then it was a whole big thing with the label and the band and everything. And, you know, he fought for me to do it, you know, and I did it.
Dude, that's dope that he had your back like that.
It was amazing. He was amazing like that. He always had my back. It's really, really cool. So then when they asked me to do it, I was like blown away. I couldn't believe it. So me and my assistant at the time, Andy Robinson, he was my assistant, but he taught me how to direct a music video, basically. We shot everything at the Los Angeles Theater in downtown LA. Down in the basement, there was a ballroom, and we shot some footage.
That room, that big like circular room. Fuck.
Yeah. It's cool, yeah. I think we did it for $250,000 or something. My mom flew out, so she got to see me directing. We had a 50-foot crane and all this shit. It was really cool.
That's so sick.
Yeah, it blew me away. Scott and Slash would sneak off like schoolboys around into this back room of the basement and smoke cigarettes. And so
were they not allowed to be smoking cigarettes at the time?
No, not at all. It's like it's a landmark or something, you know. It's like you just know smoking and stuff. I went and did it. Of course, I got fucking caught by the security guard. The location manager came down and was going to shut the whole production down.
Oh shit! Because you guys were smoking. I
got caught. They never got caught. It was me. So I was the one that was going to be, the director was going to be responsible for getting the whole production shut down for fucking smoking on location where it was supposed to be. And of course, Scott bailed me out, you know, like he always did. You know, it's like, nah, he's cool. He's fine. He's our director. You can't shut it down, blah, blah, blah. I reached number 9, which is cool to be able to say that. My first video went to top 10.
Fuck yeah. And this is where the Rookie Shit theme song is again going to go here. Get your shit together. You got to get your shit together. Give me some examples of some like green mistakes or like some, this is my first time doing XYZ mistakes where you fucked something up, but through a fuck up, you learned something that improved the way you do things.
Well, one time I was working on this music video and I was editing it and,
so that story goes,
oh man,
this is years and years later. This is, so I was working with a band a couple years back and I reached out to you to direct the video. Or not actually, it wasn't even the video. They were like
documentary, yeah.
Studio blogs. Yeah. And, you know, the band ponied up some money and then a mishap happened and the footage went missing.
We can cut this part out, right?
That movie was such dog shit too. If it was any other movie,
so bad.
We also, I don't want to be two dudes that look like us that talk about the movie that you were watching. See, we haven't even said the name of the movie yet. This is the story. This is the fucking story. Rocco was watching a really embarrassing movie. It wasn't porn. It might as well have been fucking porn. God, what a dog shit movie. If the number one spot wasn't a movie called Skyline, it was a really dog shit alien invasion movie with the worst movie you've ever seen in your fucking life. This is firmly at number 2. Rocco was watching this movie and it's not a movie that you would imagine anybody that looks like me or anybody that looks like Rocco would enjoy that much. Or maybe it's the exact kind of movie that dudes that look like us would really enjoy. Anyways, the point is he was watching a movie, got distracted, fingers slipped, and then rather than like back up and copy, you hit like completely erase and destroy. This episode is brought to you by my friends at Fromunda. Listen, I don't know you, I don't know how you live your life, but I can say this confidently. If you are one of the 49.2% of American humans who have testicles, sometimes those testicles get hot. That's where my friends at Fromunda come in. This is an amazing all-natural body powder that'll keep your balls feeling fresh and comfortable all day. This stuff is talc-free, paraben-free, certified vegan, and made with no artificial colors or synthetic fragrances. But it gets better. This is a made in the USA product. This company's coming at you from Anthem, Arizona, so you're supporting American businesses. And here's my favorite part. no animal testing, and no animal byproducts. And we love that about it, right? Because rabbits shouldn't have to experience pain so that I can feel pretty. And best of all, Fromunda donates 10% of their profits to the Sean Kimmerling Testicular Cancer Foundation. I've personally been using the Woody formula. This is cedar wood and tea tree, and fantastic work on the dick pun, by the way, gentlemen. Really good stuff. I've used this for a really long time. I've used this for years. People have consistently told me how much my dick and balls smell like a national park. And that kind of consistency in this otherwise unpredictable world is really special. You know what I mean? Because you never know. You know, you're out there living your life, you meet somebody nice. One thing leads to another thing, leads to some riveting conversation, leads to some fellatio, right? And you find yourself in the parking lot of your local breakfast cafe, and you plop that big fat American dick out, and all of a sudden, oh my God, is this Yellowstone National Park? No. But I got Old Faithful for you. You're about to see Old Faithful, right? You understand? Talking about dicks. I throw it on before I hit the stage or work out or fucking walk to my mailbox because it's 97 degrees every single day in Los Angeles. And I got the hookup for you guys. Fromunda is offering you dum-dums 15% off your entire purchase when you use the code DOJO at checkout. Head to fromunda.com, that's FROMONDA.com, and use the promo code DOJO, DOJO, for 15% off your whole purchase. Tell them your boy Darth Whiskey sent you. Pick up some powder for your balls. Stay fresh. Stay ready. Stay ready for anything. Paid assassins, mercenaries, cardio, hoes.
Doug was out and Scott wanted to go to the studio and do some vocals. So I had learned I'd read about a shortcut. There was all this debate about after you record something in Pro Tools, if you stop and then you hit Command Z, does it undo? Does it actually erase the audio file from your drive, or does it just take it out of your session? And then somebody said if you hit like comma or period or something instead of spacebar, when you stop, it'll just automatically erase it. Okay. It'll stop and erase the file,
as opposed to just temporarily remove it. But why would you give a fuck about that? Because it's not like you're staining you with hard drive space.
Well, I was just trying to. Scott worked really fast in the studio. You know, when he was writing the lyrics, he was just like a lot of sitting around and waiting. And then obviously when he was 2-3 hours late, a lot of sitting around waiting. But once we got on the roll, once we got going, like when he was actually doing his vocals, yeah, he worked really fast.
Dude, I have such fond memories of sitting in those 2-corner little booth things. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that control room was so much fun, man. It wasn't big. There wasn't anything fancy, but it was vibey.
It was basic, yeah.
Okay, ready for it?
Just knowing that that's the corner in which one of my fucking musical heroes wrote some of my favorite music is nuts, dude. Sorry. It's your day to run the ship.
So stupid, so cocky because I didn't have a lot of experience with Pro Tools and I was nervous about working with Scott for the first time. Doug wasn't there. It was just the two of us, so I had to, make the coffee, wrap the cables, take out the trash and record,
sure,
one of my idols. And so I wanted to try out this new shortcut that I had heard about. And so after every take, when he would be like, I don't think that's good, I would hit whatever the button was that just erased it. And then like 3 or 4 times throughout the day, he'd be like, wait, let me hear that one after all. I was trying to be fancy, trying to do advanced Pro Tools shortcuts.
I don't have that one anymore. So as you were recording along, you were erasing the backup takes.
I would hit comma or whatever, and it would just stop playback. It would stop recording and it would ditch the file.
Uh-huh.
But then he would be like, wait, let me hear that. And I'd be like, I erased it. It's like, what? And he would get mad, and I was super embarrassed. And that happened like 3 times. And then finally I was just like, I got it figured out. And I realized what I was doing.
It's
I realized
what
was happening.
Fancy shortcut.
Yeah. And then I think I blamed it on like,
computer's fucking up, man.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like it's this weird update. I don't know.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said, because he didn't know anything about computers. Yeah. So like, I just got to restart. One thing he was used to was like fucking having to wait around to restart Pro Tools because of an error.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the one thing I can say. All right, let's take 5. And then, and then after that, I stopped doing it and I didn't need to restart the computer. But
the lesson that I take from that, don't maybe on the first day that you're going to work with a guy, try out your new fancy fucking tricks. Do this, play it safe.
Exactly.
Valuable lesson.
Yeah, valuable lesson.
Yeah.
More on the funny tip was like Scott and I had really bad luck with like small size vehicles and machinery. Like, a big part of what bums me out is that Scott his persona, and like the way people saw him, nobody ever saw like the really funny side.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just the hilarity that would ensue on the bus and stuff. Anyway, we were shooting the music video for what was the one where he's like on the bathroom floor?
Fall to Pieces.
Thank you, my friends.
Yeah, it was Fall to Pieces. Yeah, we were filming that down Santa Monica, and so we were on the beach. And this was the first time we like stole something, and so we went and we took one of the because you know you're waiting around on a set. There's like just hours and hours of waiting around.
Yeah,
you get fucking bored, man. You know,
Yeah.
He wanted to go steal a golf cart, so we went and stole golf carts and we raced them around. And he's like, I'm paying for him. I'm like, all right, well, so we stole golf carts, and of course he got his stuck. And then we're like trying to dig it out, and we couldn't figure out how to get it unstuck.
Wait, and you guys are you're waiting for any moment for them to be like, all right, band on set.
I got an earpiece in and a radio, you know, from production, and then whenever they're gonna say, all right, can you invite Scott to the set now? You know, I had to get him to the set, you know, to film his part. And this was like, there was like 300 extras waiting, and
Oh my God, that's
you know,
hilarious.
huge crew and everything. So I was like, you know, so sure enough, they start coming over my ear. Let's go. Wait on Scott. And we're like fucking quarter of a mile down the beach, stuck in
Yeah.
the sand.
Oh no.
And we're sitting there, and I'm like, dude, yeah, if we just had like a piece of plywood, you know, I grew up in New York, like digging my car out of the snow
Yeah,
where
yeah,
it
yeah.
would get stuck. And if I just
Fulcrum it
like
out, right?
Yeah, just a piece of plywood. And we look over, leaning against a fucking light post is a fucking 4x8 piece of fucking plywood. I was like, this is awesome. And I got us out, and we got back, and we got
That's
yelled at.
awesome.
We got in so much trouble. You know, the first AD was mad at us and stuff. We were holding up production, you know.
We are the reason you're here, motherfucker. Relax.
Yeah. And then there was a snowmobile incident. There was a jet ski incident in New Zealand. There was the golf cart incident. Yeah, it was.
Oh my God.
I mean, there's so many stories, bro. He was a character. He was, you know, there was never a dull moment, dude. Never.
I want to thank a special guy. He's been with us for a long time. Rocco, he's right there. Come out here. Come out here. On the count of three, you guys have to all say, Yo, Rocco. 1, 2, 3. All right, now sing us Fly Me to the Moon. Fly me to the moon. Fly me where the star. But next year, they're going to bring us fucking producer around, so this one's for you.
It doesn't sound to me like you struggled much with like letting uncertainty stop you from doing a thing.
No, not at all. I bullshitted my way into so many situations. Yeah, I mean, there's been rough patches. There's definitely been a lot of improvising. You know, I mean, I learned, I think, because my parents were like serial entrepreneurs. You know, they did a million different companies and jobs and stuff. My mom had a lot of chutzpah, as they say, like, you know, from her stories of sneaking out at 16 to go to the city to make a record or get signed to, like, she later in her 20s, she went to Atlantic Records in New York City and just like walked right into the president's office and it's like, you need to sign me.
Dude.
Anyway, so I got that from her, man. I got that from her for sure. And so when I came to LA, I was just like, man, I was all about it. I would see production trucks on the side of the road, and I would pull over in my Saturn, and I would find the one that said production office on it, and I would walk in and just walk right onto the set and be like, you guys need a PA? I'm here. I'm ready to work. Here's my resume. And I got hired a couple times from
Fuck yeah.
just fucking hustling, man. One time I got hired on as a PA, and then I ended up getting a role as an extra in the movie.
Charlie's Angels Full Throttle.
That's one of them. Yeah. That was one of them. Yeah. So one of the things I did when I first moved to LA was extra work. They don't tell you what it is, right?
What the program's going to be.
What the gig is. Yeah. They just tell you you're an extra. And because of the way I looked, I guess they would cast me as like, if they need Mexican or like Armenian or Italian. Played a dead Armenian on the show called The Shield. They put a bullet hole in my temple.
Whoa.
Well, they put bullet holes in both my temples because they didn't know which side the director was going to want me to lay on.
Right.
So when I went through makeup, they just did it on both. And then, so yeah, just like laying there in a pool of blood.
Hey, who's the dead guy?
Sent the picture to my mom. Another one I ended up booked as an extra for a nightclub goer.
Uh-huh.
And then I chatted it up with one of the production people, gave him my card and said I'm available as a PA. I'd never fucking PA'd in my life. I just read about it like on some forum and what their job title is. And so sure enough, they were short staffed and she said, "Do you want a job? You know how to use this radio?" She handed it to me. And I was like, "Yeah, I totally know how to use the radio." She's like, "All right, I'll go guard that elevator, make sure no one goes up because we're filming upstairs." And that's, and then I ended up from that getting a close up of my face. Like the camera comes up and it's me smoking a bong. And remember, I was clean and sober completely, I remembered how to smoke a bong. So I was another little picture that I sent to my mom. She was getting all these pictures from LA of me smoking, doing drugs and getting
laying in a pool of blood.
Yeah, it was fucking hilarious. They say show up at Culver City's studios, Sony Studios in Culver City, and it's a feature film. And that's all they tell you. So I'm sitting there, I hear high heels. I'm in like the extras holding area, I hear someone walking up behind me and I turn around and it's Drew Barrymore. She walks up behind me and she's like fully decked out in like lingerie. And I was just like,
sucks.
Again, this is the first time I've ever been in a movie lot, and here she is. I turn around and I had no idea what movie or show I was going to go do. I just knew it was
You just turn around and you see Drew Barrymore in a fucking bustier, like, okay, it's that kind of a movie.
Crazy. That was the second time I was on a set. The first time I was on the set was the porn one.
Yeah.
The
Is this what movies are like? It's dildos and lingerie. Man, I've really made it in this town.
Fucking Hollywood is more than they said it was. Then the director, McGee was the director's name, and he pointed me out. He's like, "Hey, you," because I had these thick black frame glasses. He liked my look, so he's like, "Make sure you can like feel the camera, that the camera's on you. I want you to be in the shot when you're cheering." So next thing I know, I'm getting paid to cheer as Drew Barrymore strips on a pole in front of me.
Cut to a clip. I've been pretty fortunate over the years to have a lot of chances to work with you on other people's shit, which is kind of fun, right? Because I feel like the fucking the mercenary for hire, and it's like, all right, cool. I've been called in because I can do a specific thing. I'm a one trick pony. I feel like, especially on the guitar, like there's kind of one or two things that I can do. At least, all right, you're shaking your head. Thanks.
No, there's things you do. There's things you do best.
Right. We've done some really cool stuff together, and we have done some stuff together where in between the takes, you and I are looking at each other like one of these.
Let's just say if you're a construction worker, you don't always love everything the house you're building. You just build it,
right? It's kind of a bummer to make it like that clinical, but that is the case sometimes. Sometimes you don't get lucky, and the stuff you're working on, maybe you're not super excited about, but you still got a job to do. Somebody's still paying you good fucking money to show up and execute the thing that they have in mind. But there have been a couple occasions in which we never really outright discussed that that we're going to use this as a code word, but we I think you made it up. I settled on a code word to work in the conversations casually.
Well, wait a minute. If you're going to reveal the code word, then we can't use it.
No, I'm not revealing the code word.
Okay, cool.
But it's a code word that Rocco and I, it has nothing to do with music. It sounds weird to bring up in casual conversation. It's not a word. It's not a thing that people talk about all the time. It's not that outlandish, right? But it's just like, why are we discussing this at this time? It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. And so it feels out of left field because it is. But that's kind of the point. It's like a safe word. Yeah, it's like the opposite. It's a danger word, really, is what it is. It's the opposite of a safe word. It's a danger word. What's the word what you say when you're fucking and you need things to get more heinous? And then the joke, the fun part becomes, if one of us brings up the code word, the other one has to not laugh, because then that becomes obvious. It becomes a lot of fun to try to make the other person laugh but not laugh. It's been so many things like that, dude. So many of those kinds of in the studio experiences of weird people, and we haven't even touched on the fucking shit. We've had a lot of we've done a lot of cool shit together, but the most fun that I can remember, like when I think about the most fun parts of our friendship, it's almost always us having to sit through some dog shit together and just be like, fuck, dude, this sucks so bad. This is so brutal. And then both of us just giving each other like, come on, bro, you got this. Let's just finish out the day. Finish this guitar part, we can leave. And those kinds of memories in hindsight, now that we're past them, have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about current projects.
So after Scott passed away, that was tough because not only did I lose my friend, but I lost my job and I lost my studio. And then I lost one of my favorite singers, like, one of my favorite bands. I was a huge fan too. So like, I was also bummed on that level too as well. It's like, I don't get to hear any new Scott music ever. So it's like, it was rough. So I spent a while just working around local studios, and then I met Rami Jaffe, the keyboard player from Foo Fighters, and he had a studio in Van Nuys called Phonogenic Studios. They invited me to come on as like a chief engineer at the studio. Nice. So I did that, and we got to work with a lot of really cool artists. I was only there for less than a year, and then they kind of shut it down and kind of changed form. Now it's like more like a private studio. So so that was cool. And then I went to Indiana, and so while I was working at Phono, I went to see my buddy, and then there was a band opening for them, and I thought they were really cool. And they were called the Trash Dogs. So then I approached them and told them I wanted to work with them and stuff. So I was doing Scott and I were kind of doing sort of a record label thing, and Rami and I and Ron had talked about doing something like that too, where I could sign bands, find bands, A&R, and then produce them and engineer them and mix them. And it never ended up coming to fruition at either studio, but one of the bands that I found was Trash Dogs. And so, I've been working with them for a while now. And we got a full-length record that we're putting out. And, that's kind of where I'm at now.
What about this band made you say, ooh, who the fuck is this?
I think it's just the rawness. It's pretty raw. It's bluesy. Reminded me of GNR a little bit, just kind of street gutter rock and roll, just great songs, really. It was really about the songs, and Gabe has a great voice. All the guys are cool and easy to work with, and they didn't have a lot of experience in the studio, and so I felt like I had something to offer. We did drums at Phono, and then we did some bass and guitar there too, but we did most of that stuff in Indiana. My buddy Jeff Anderson has a studio in West Lafayette. It's called Sound Logic Studios.
Dude, this place is beautiful. Like, so it's a multi-story house in like the woods in Indiana, and it's a studio. A lot of the time when you're making an album or recording a project or something like that, there is a set amount of time that you get to work on a thing because there's a limited budget. So it's all like hardcore, we got a mission mode, right?
Yeah, and watching the clock.
There is, you're on the clock and you have to get shit done in a limited amount of time. And so you don't really have the luxury a lot of the time to get experimental or to really focus on parts where like, hey, we don't have time to do the background vocals a fourth time. I would try another harmony, like we got to go. And contrast that with the way a lot of my favorite records have been, like, not necessarily that they have unlimited recording budgets and so they can work for however long they want to, but like Queen made their albums this way a lot. They would travel to a place and the studio would be there, or like they'd go live at a studio and write and make and create and record the record in one place over like an extended period of time, as opposed to like, we're recording in March for these 3 weeks, and every night you get to go back to your apartment and you're fucking, you fight with your spouse, or you have to fucking fight traffic on the way to the studio the next day. Fuck Starbucks, all that bullshit of the day-to-day extra noise.
Yeah. The
band, the musical artist, whoever it is, can shut that shit out and say, cool, we're just going to focus on writing. And maybe today we didn't get the song, but tomorrow, or fuck, it's 4 a.m. Let's write, like, we're doing this riff together. Oh shit, that idea is cool. Having that kind of a petri dish environment
that's
to
amazing.
Just focus on the creation of music.
Yeah.
Changes the way an album sounds, changes the way the recordings and the songs are written when you have the luxury of doing them that way. And I can't imagine how fucking awesome it was to do that in the fucking sticks in like some scenic ass Indiana.
Yeah, it was awesome. You know what's cooler, really, too? The best part is not only are you getting out of town, you're getting away from all the distractions and nightlife and the girlfriends and all that stuff, but you're also, on top of that, you're all, the whole band's in one house.
You're together. It's a tribal ass feeling.
camaraderie. Yeah. And there's a bond, and that definitely comes through with the music 100%. That's my favorite way to make records. Just go away.
I hope I get the luxury of getting to do that one day. And just that gang membership feeling, you know, that is my favorite part of being on tour. Like the 2.5 hours that I get to actually play the guitar is the tiniest part of that's the part of my day I worry about the least. You know, I worry about because I took extra time to put powder on my balls, if I'm going to make us late to get to the venue and sound check. And now people, you know what I mean? It's things like that. That notion of like, oh fuck, we lost one, we got to go find him. You know what I mean? The adventure, the camaraderie, the feeling of like, you know, we're going to bust into town. We're going to bust open the saloon doors and be like, fuck y'all. Or from out of town, but we're here to fuck shit up. You know what I mean? Like,
totally.
So we're in the Airbnb in Pittsburgh doing laundry in this dingy ass basement. The washing machine doesn't fucking work. It's still wet. Dryer doesn't work. There's a second dryer that has mold in it. Jamie's like, hey, I wonder what's behind this door. Go ahead. I was like, oh, I bet the door takes us outside. Okay, it's fine. It's just a dark room. Okay, well, what's in the dark room?
Give me some interesting, we were on the road and XYZ crazy shit happened.
I mean, oh man.
Oh, he's tap dancing.
Okay, well, there was one time when we got kicked out of a strip club in Wales because Slash jumped up on the stage.
I mean, these things happen.
I mean, you know, it's a stage. He's a musician.
What are you going to do? I've been there most of my life.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get to see it because I was dealing with something back at the hotel. And then they said, just meet us here. So I jumped in the car. And by the time I got to the strip club, it was like something out of a music video. The three members of Guns N' Roses were stumbling out of the, you know, Slash was shit-faced. Matt was probably shit-faced. And they were stumbling out of the strip club. And I was like, what's going on? I just got here. They're like, they kicked us out. Slash jumped on the stage and started stripping on the pole. I mean, you know, I had to carry him to his room a couple times, you know.
Wow.
Someone let me out. Driver? Oh, thank you. Love you, man.
I was laying in bed the other night and I was trying to remember back to like, all right, can I remember every show I've played or every venue I've played? Like if I think about the tour date and like the city and state right in my head, can I remember what that venue looked like? And for a lot of them, I can, you know. I do my best to, while I'm experiencing a thing, remind myself to commit this shit to memory. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like there are moments where, you know, the audience is singing something back to us. And I mean, specifically, I can remember you talk about where it was a show we played like amphitheater. I remember the sun's going down. This is like the middle of our set. Sun's going down. We'd launch into the ballad and, you know, dude starts singing about how much the song means to him and all, like super emotional shit. And then I remember standing back and watching during this moment and be like, oh, this is one you tell your grandkids about. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like the sun is setting and just feeling my feet in my combat boots of like, yo, you are halfway around the country right now. All the decisions you've made in your life have gotten you to this point, and you get to be in this moment from this perspective. You know what I mean? And how many times I can remember being on the opposite side of the stage, having as meaningful of an experience watching the Roots, watching Gary Clark, and feeling like, fuck, man, I'm a part of something. I feel the I love this music. I love the people I'm here with today. I love this fucking drunk asshole who doesn't know me at all, but like, yeah, fucking like all of that, you know? And this sense of community, the sense of, again, like feeling like the dudes I'm on stage with, this is my gang, these are my brothers, all of that tying in together and trying to commit as much of that kind of stuff to memory as possible. Is something I think I've done a pretty good job at. And maybe that can also translate into I spend too much time living in the past, or I'm a little bit more nostalgic than I should be, probably.
Well, you were just talking about like trying to remember things, you know, like one of those 90s bands that I was embarrassed to like at the time was like, what the hell? Counting Crows. And Adam Duritz, the singer, had this line. I think he was like a literature, poetry major up in San Francisco.
This is for my sister. When you watch this, I'm out of whiskey, so you can send me more. I love you, miss you.
He had a line that said, I can't remember all the times I've tried to tell myself to hold on to these moments as they pass.
Dude, it's heavy.
It's good, right? So so I tried to do that a lot, you know. I think the first big moment, my first big like I've arrived moment was I was at Lavish and the VR guys were there one of the first days. Slash looks up at me and he's like, "Hey Rocco, can I get more Scott in my monitor or whatever?" I was like, yeah, sure. And then I did it, and then I had like this chill up my back. I was like, I made it.
You just fixed Slash's monitor.
Yeah.
That guy
crazy.
wrote Sweet Child of Mine.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, what the fuck?
For the legendary.
Oh, there's a fucking hilarious story I didn't tell you about.
Please.
So I was working at Manny's with my roommate, and I met my friend Jeremy Brown.
Yes.
And we would sit around all day and we would just watch Guns N' Roses videos. There was like one of those TVs when they were like really 2 feet deep and they had tubes. So there was one of those on a cart with like a VCR that was like in the training room for the new employees from Manny's.
Oh yeah, it's the same shit that like the substitute teacher wheels in when she's hungover.
Exactly. So we stole that, but the training room was upstairs. So we carried that fucking thing down every day, and we would just and Jeremy would just bring in like it's either CDs or VHS tapes of like either STP or GNR or Zeppelin or ZZ Top, Black Crowes, shit like that.
Oh yes.
I was super broke, had no money. My cell phone was turned off. So Jeremy and I are sitting at the guitar counter, and we hear Rocco Slash is on line 2.
That's awesome.
And it was just like we were like, because me and Jeremy would just sit around and be like, yeah, man, I hope this thing with the Guns guys works out and ends up being a real band, and maybe they'll put out a record or something, you know. And I go up and pick up the phone, and Slash got the number from the manager because my cell phone was turned off. And so he called me at my day job, and he was like, they were up at Lavish trying to rehearse, and they couldn't get the PA on. It was like a huge rack of amps and shit. And so he wanted me to try to walk him through it. I was like, dude, there's no way, you know, I'll just come up, you know, real quick and do it for you guys. And my manager wouldn't let me go. And so I put him on the phone with Slash, and Slash was like, yo, man, we really
could you help
need
us out, please?
Yeah. And the manager was just like, no, I really need him here today. We're short staffed. I can't let him just leave. And I don't know if he just didn't believe it was Slash or was just being a dick, but I don't know. So that was the second time that I just walked out midday after.
Wait, that was a different job too, right?
That was Guitar Center was the first time when I left. And
Dude,
was like,
you know, that's
you.
Inspiring as shit. Like, I wish I had a larger set of testicles and stood up for myself like that more often in my life, because I mean, like the fact that it ended up leading, it's part of the trajectory that led you to this career path or led you to this place.
Yeah.
I don't think that's necessarily an accident, dude. You know, I think that most success stories, you can point to the places along the timeline in which they rolled the dice on themselves. I feel like if you sit around waiting for, I have been this kind of a person. I'm still this kind of a fucking person, to where I'm waiting for the perfect moment, or I'm waiting till the thing is in the perfect shape, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You can be waiting too long, man. Just get the thing done. It doesn't matter. You don't have to know where you're ending up to start.
Exactly.
And you've been such a big part in helping me drill that into my brain and be okay with it.
Somebody told me a long time ago, like, you know, don't wait for all your ducks to be in a row, you know, before you do something. Like, I always want to make sure everything was perfect. I had enough money saved. I had a plan. I had a backup plan.
Sure.
I've never been that person, you know? And then finally, when I was thinking about one of the major life changes I've been through is when I left Florida for LA. And then when thinking about that, my ducks are never going to be all in a fucking row. You just got to do it. You know, you just got to go for it.
The version of yourself that didn't? like I feel so bad for that guy. And maybe this isn't the right way to have, like, this isn't the right mindset to have about this, but like, there are multiple versions of myself. There are multiple past versions of myself, or multiple like game saves at various points in my campaign mode.
Yeah, exactly.
Where I have the experience and the clarity to now look back and say, you know, I feel sympathy for that version of myself that was going through some shit, you know, and there are versions of myself when I remember looking back and thinking, like, I don't know how I'm ever going to make it out of this situation, or this scenario seems hopeless, or all this type of shit, that it doesn't make me special having gone through. Everybody goes through similar things like this. I've done so much other bullshit day job stuff, thinking to myself, how much better, like, this will be worth it when I'm on stage. When I'm on stage in Omaha, Nebraska, and the sun is setting. And that's the kind of stuff that like hits me in this moment, you know, of all the nights that I've spent doing shit that I didn't want to do so that I could do this. And it makes it that much more special, you know, and in hindsight now, it's like, it's so worth it to me. And I can't imagine the version of myself that said, fuck it, I can't, I'm too scared to do this.
Didn't try. Yeah. I was, shortly after I moved to LA, somebody, I can't remember how I met the person, but he was a photographer / writer, and he did a book called Quitters. And it was all about people that had seemingly great lives that threw everything away to go chase some wild dream or passion. And so he put me in the book because of the way I, just doing that, doing what I did, you got to do it. You got to just do it, man. I try to encourage anybody to do it, but it's, not everyone is able to,
I mean, I recognize that. I've been privileged as shit. I've been unbelievably, I wish I had better adjectives for it, but like I've been super fortunate to have, the upbringing that I had, to have the parents that I had, the supportive kinds of parents that I had, the access to instruments, the access to information, a big sister to steal CDs from, Not everybody gets to be that lucky.
It's crazy. Yeah. All the things that shaped me, from having an older brother that introduced me to good music, to having whatever instrument I wanted, I got, and then, and then learning that sense of gumption and go-gettedness from my folks. Yeah. Shapes who we are. Yeah, for sure.
And this is where the smooth R&B is going to come in. Over the years, you and I have had a lot of like self-help conversations. Like I remember you turned me on to The Secret in 2008, and there was a time period where you and I were all about The Secret for a minute. And then there was a time period shortly after that where you were like, oh, this is bullshit, right? Okay, yeah, this is bullshit. One of the things that I think has been really beneficial for me in my life is making intentions clear by verbalizing them, right? Or like if you type out a sentence, if you write out a sentence of the thing that you want, the thing that you're afraid of, whatever it is, it kind of allows you the perspective and the distance to separate yourself a little bit, like, cool, I can examine this thing, and it doesn't have to be so personal. It doesn't have to be so attached to you and me and my identity. You know what I mean?
It's not putting something on a fixed medium allows it to be separate from you.
Absolutely.
It exists. The idea no longer lives in your brain. It exists.
It's on paper. So for this segment, I want you to give me an example of just intentions that you want to commit to making real. You know what I mean? Like the things that we can put on wax and verbalize.
Right. Like in terms of career, I've always had a lot of energy and gumption, like we talked about. I've always been kind of workaholic or whatever, I guess you could say. It's easy to slip into party mode, and then especially during COVID, you slip between party mode and work mode,
I got a couple modes. My 3 modes are party mode, work mode, and I'm so depressed I can't I'm gonna wake up at 4 p.m. and I'm gonna go to bed at 6 p.m.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I'm letting myself have a couple of those.
Yeah. The self-care aspect of life is something I've never really paid any attention to at all. Like I spend very, very minimal amount of time in front of a mirror or exercising or, just eating right, or, and a lot of it's just like an emotional, like a mental health stuff too. It's like trying to cut myself some slack and not be so hard on myself. Living in LA, it's easy to fall into,
patterns. I mean, I think it's human nature to be easy to fall into patterns because it's the stuff that makes us feel comfortable. The tricky thing that I've definitely come to terms with during COVID, but over the past couple of years, is shit doesn't change until you decide it does.
Yeah.
And if I continue to operate the way that I have been operating, I'm going to run into the same kinds of problems, the same kinds of arguments with the same kinds of people if I keep letting myself. And it's going to be up to me, and it has been up to me. And in the ways where I've stepped up and said, cool, I'm not going to engage with this kind of a thing anymore, or I'm not, I am going to start doing this. I'm going to replace this behavior with a better one, all this kind of stuff. It's taken surgical, active discipline to be like, I have to do something different. The flip side of that, in contrast, is I have a much longer list of the things that I'm currently letting myself slide on that I shouldn't. Like I'm eating too many carbs. I'm jerking off way too much. My dick is basically a compass that always points east at this point. It's concerning. For me, it's such a momentum thing, man. Like when I start a good momentum, if I'm like, cool, I'm gonna work hard at my diet. I'm gonna work hard at, exercise as much as I can, all this kind of stuff. Everything else falls into place. Yeah. And then the day or two in a row where I'm like, all right, I'm gonna take it easy. I've been working hard. I'm gonna chill. Fuck it. Let's get that thin crust barbecue pizza from Pizza Hut. I go thin crust with barbecue sauce, pepperoni, pineapple, and sausage. You don't fuck with thin crust, huh?
No, I'm a New York guy, so I just want New York pizza with pepperoni.
Dude, New York pizza is not that good.
It's the best pizza in the world that ever was and ever will be.
I don't like how every slice of New York pizza is burned on the bottom.
Burnt? It's not supposed to be burnt.
It's a thing. It's a thing.
It's not a thing. You got the
thing.
white little pebbles on the bottom of the pizza that keep it from being burnt.
Also, New York pizza always comes out way too hot. I don't fuck with New York pizza.
Yeah, for sure. You got to give it a second.
What is some stuff that you have changed or you have worked on, you have consciously tried to adapt to?
I still struggle with like not getting too fired up about politics, especially on Facebook. It's just like,
I straight up, I deactivated my shit. It boiled down to the most simple thing for me is every time I open this shit, I have a shittier day. I start my day shittier because I read some outlandish shit.
Yeah.
And the platform is designed to show you outlandish shit so you stay on it and stay looking at their advertisements. It's designed to piss you off and keep you there. And I can't be a part of allowing that to happen to me because we are constantly being manipulated by every fucking thing else. Because it's not like because I'm abstaining from Facebook that I'm not letting the internet get to me. Every day that I open Reddit and go to the fucking front page and I find out some crazy shit that this fucking dipshit in the White House is doing, or the kind of crazy shit that's happening all across the world to people who don't deserve it. And it's so hard to not let that stuff creep in and affect how you're feeling.
You're like my third friend in the past few months that has gotten just like shut down their Facebook. Basically, you're just.
I got no joy out of it. I wasn't using it to communicate with people.
And also on the written word, it's a lot different too. You know, I've gotten in heated debates, you know, via text message or on Facebook with friends about politics that would have never got that heated if we were just talking person. You know,
I wonder about this though, because I have similar experiences, right? Where I have friends that I'm really close with that are on very different sides of the political spectrum as me.
Me too.
And it's been a struggle to not let that interfere with the friendship because this shit ain't about politics. It's about humanity. It's about the fact that we're not different from each other. We are, of course we are. Cultures are different. Families are different. Like there are inherent differences culturally and genetically and otherwise. Of course, I'm not minimizing any of that, but like I feel like you could ask every single American, be like, what's the most important thing to you? Like just personally. Don't want my parents to die, don't want my kids to die. Health insurance is too expensive. Why the fuck are they taking so much out of my paycheck? That's it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's time for a subject change.
We had a lot of fun wherever we were. Yeah. Scott was so fun to be around. Nobody even fucking probably knows that. Like he's such a bad rap. He's really misunderstood as a person. You know, he really was. We had so much fun. Like truck stops were just hilarity always.
The best. Ensued. I mean, like just shitty t-shirts and hats.
Oh my God. Just all the
bumper
weird
stickers.
Shit, all the weird shit that they sell at truck stops. So I'm a huge fan of the movie Sling Blade. I like Billy Bob Thornton a lot. He's one of my favorite actors.
Western?
Sling Blade? No, it's a Billy Bob Thornton's first big movie. He wrote it, directed in it, starred in it. Wow. Does not look like himself at all. You would not recognize him at all. And there's no makeup or anything. It's just the way he's like, I like the way you talk. You got to see Sling Blade. We got to watch it. You know, you've made me watch a few movies. I'm going to make you watch them.
I would love to. Yeah, it sounds fantastic.
Pictures. Can't forget the corn nuts. You make yourself a jailhouse stew. That's what you do.
What was that?
Take pictures.
Okay. He talked like that, and so we used to talk like that on the bus all the time. Hey, man, I reckon I'm gonna get me some French fried potatoes. We stopped at a truck stop. He's like, Rocco, I'm gonna tell you, I make some jailhouse stew. And this was from when he was in jail.
What is jailhouse stew? The fuck is jailhouse stew?
I remember it was based on ramen noodles. First of all, you take a garbage bag, right? And, you know, like a legit, like a Glad, 12-ounce kitchen garbage bag. You don't fill it all the way up. You only fill it like this big, but you put 3 or 4 ramens in there. And then it involved Fritos and hot sauce and ramen. And there might have been a couple other things, but it was just called jailhouse stew. This is the shit they used to make in jail.
Yeah.
He walked me through the whole process, probably 4 a.m, some random truck stop in the Sling Blade voice.
Oh my God.
And into the camera while I was filming and show me how to do jailhouse stew. The night when I was coming up on my 20-year anniversary, I told Scott, because I wasn't his sober coach officially. There was Jeff Kramer did that, and a couple other people, John Perkins and Glendale PD and different people like that in different capacities, but kind of unofficially, he was my friend and I was sober.
You're right there, yeah.
So I was coming up my 20-year clean date anniversary at midnight. We were on the bus. I think we were in between Michigan and Canada or some shit. And I told him, I said, hey, I want to try wine. At midnight, it's going to be 20 years sober. And I'm a 36-year-old Italian man, and I've never tasted wine. So
wait a minute, because before that, you were just a kid.
I was sober when I was 16, yeah. So I wanted to try it, and he was drinking red wine on the bus. So I told him, when I went into rehab, my parents got clean and sober too. And so I had heard that they were both back to drinking and that it wasn't a problem and everything was fine. And it was for them, So I was like, I want to do it too then. So then I did it. And then I told him, and his eyes lit up. I was like, dude, I'm going to try wine. He's like, no way. I'm like, yeah. He's like, are you sure? Part of him was excited and part of him was really worried about me. That I was going to relapse and go down a dark road and stuff. It's 20 years. So we talked about it for a while, and then when we finally decided to do it, then he got excited and,
that's so cool.
He poured me a glass of red wine and we toasted to sobriety.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah. That was one of my favorite moments. But that and the jet ski, we rented jet skis in New Zealand on a show day. No, so the first time we got in trouble with a small craft of some sort was the golf carts. And then we were on tour. When you're on tour, you have show days, you have travel days, and you have days off. So so usually if you're going to do something fun, like if we were on tour, we were in Paris, we would always schedule a handful of days before the show and a handful of days after the show, so we could hang out in Paris for a week and have fun. And they would a lot of times fly the families out or whatever,
Fuck, that must be nice.
Yeah, so if we were playing London, we were in London and we were hubbing out of there. We were hubbing out of London. So we had a private jet, and we were there for 3 weeks, and we did all the Europe dates, just hubbed out of there.
Fly
which
back,
was nice.
fly out of there and fly back.
Yeah, same day. It was great. So usually when you're on tour, you do your fun stuff on your days off. So we had to be at sound check at 3, I think, 3 or 4, which he rarely went to anyway. And that was some of the most fun times too. Was a couple of times
ditching sound check?
No. Then Scott wasn't going, and so they would let me sound check his mic for him and his in-ears. And so I would basically be singing on stage with Guns N' Roses for with full PA and everything for sound check. It's fucking cool. So yeah. Anyway, so he hits me up. It's 12 o'clock. He's like, I want to do jet skis. I'm like, we got just a show day. We got a show tonight. He's like, no, it's cool. I'm not going to go to sound check. What time's the show? I was like,
no, it's cool. I'm not going to go to sound check. So if you're listening and you're not a music, you can't just, you can if you're the guy that everybody's showing up to see, but
the rule on the road was that no phone calls before noon, except me, right? So any calls had to go through me, and I wasn't allowed to relay them or give them or do anything like that until before noon. And no, we do a lot of phoners on the road, interviews over the phone or interviews in person or whatever. And then nothing like that could ever be scheduled before 2. Because, when you're on the road,
12 o'clock to a musician is 8 a.m. to
That's 8 a.m. It's 8 a.m.
And then 2 p.m. is 10 a.m. So for you regular people, it's no, I'm definitely not waking up early.
Especially as a singer.
This is dog shit. If regular people wake up at 10 a.m. and they're fine, we're assholes.
If you're a singer, you got to take care of your voice. That's the hardest part about being a singer. That's the part where the singer has the hardest job in the band, is that anybody else can
meet
go.
People and shake hands.
Everyone else in the band can party and do whatever the fuck they want. But if as a singer, well, obviously all the singers are famous for doing drugs. But if you fuck up your health real bad or your voice, you got to cancel the show. Whereas anyone else can struggle through it, strum your strings or hit your. Yeah. So he hit me up. It was 1 or 2 o'clock. I want to go on jet skis. So we met this woman, and her husband had a jet ski store, and she was part of the hotel crew. And she invited us out on these jet skis. So the next day, of course, Scott woke up, was like, let's call that person, call her husband. So the jet ski store was closed. So the guy met us there anyway, opened it up, gave us his personal pickup truck with a trailer on the back and 2 jet skis off of the showroom floor. Not even outside, inside, the fanciest ones he had. Yeah. Brand new. Yeah. And just gave us the keys to his truck. There was nobody else.
This sounds like the beginning to a wonderful story, which doesn't turn sour at all. What could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong? Yeah, so I drove the Ford F-150, whatever it was, through
On
New
the opposite
Zealand.
side of the road.
On the opposite side of the road through New Zealand. So anyway, we show up there and we unload him, and the guy is like, just remember, as you're approaching, you got to turn it off and glide it in, because if you get too
As in
shallow,
when you're coming back from the ocean and going back to land.
We were in a huge like lake, but because it sucks water in and spits water out. That's how it powers it. So it'll suck in all the sand and just destroy it. Like you can't repair. You got to completely rebuild it from
I
scratch.
think I know where the story's
So
going
he
to go,
said,
you guys.
He said, make sure you turn it off when you come in, and whatever you do, don't go in that area over there. And of course, the first thing Scott wanted to do was go in that area over there. So we go over, and I'm 220, and he's like probably 190, 185, and
162.
whatever.
Yeah. Motherfucker wore size 28 jeans, man. Come on.
So he goes through this area that we're not supposed to go, and he comes out, no problem. And then I try to do it, and right into the fucking sand dune.
Like, did you eat it, or like you just got stuck?
I was going real slow, and I was like, dude, I don't want to do this. I got a bad feeling. And we're yelling, I got a bad feeling about this. He's like, no, just fuck it. You're fine, dude. You're fine, dude. He's
You're good.
He's like, I just did it. I went right through it. It's fine. Sure enough. I mean, he's my boss, so I got to do what he tells me.
Yeah.
It just turned off. The whole thing just sucked up full of sand, and I blew the motor.
Fuck.
We told the guy, we're like, hey man, I think we destroyed one of your brand new jet skis, and it was fine. We thought he was going to make us pay for it or whatever, but he had insurance. Cool. He had insurance. He filed an insurance claim, and it was whatever. I'm sure he had to lie about it, but it was in New Zealand. I don't know how that shit works down there, but it was fine. We didn't have to pay for anything.
So the guy was cool.
The guy was totally cool. We got him backstage. That was a big part of it. We got him and all his buddies backstage for the show and the meet and greet. They got to meet, meet everybody. Everything was fine. So so that was the golf cart stuck in the sand, and then there's the jet ski, and then there was a snowmobile up in Lake Chelan at the cabin that he owned, where he rode it off a cliff. Okay, so just real quick, he bought so you can't get me going on stories. So we're gonna be here all night.
Oh, dude.
But it ties into the trilogy of small motorized
vehicles.
Wow.
So
yeah, I have to tell it. So he bought a cabin up in Lake Chelan. So when he was first getting clean and sober, Duff was helping him out a lot with martial arts and
kickboxing. Benny the Jet, right?
Yeah, Benny the Jet. Yep. And the first version of the Velvet Revolver video, when I asked them each to bring something personal in real life to be in the video, Duff's thing was this logo that he had from Benny. Anyway, so Benny had a house up in Lake Chelan, and Duff did too. And so then Scott bought one too, a cabin up there in the woods. There was a Lake Chelan snowmobile club that there's all these dudes, and they made these trails. I guess you could drive a car up there too, because they're pretty wide, but they're made for snowmobile trails. And the snowmobile club, and one of the members died and left a bunch of money to the snowmobile club. So they were able to make some nice trails, and they had a cabin up at the top. So we get to Lake Chelan, and he buys his cabin. So we go up there so we can decorate it. And we bring paintings, and furniture shows up, and we set it all up. And while we're there, he meets the local guy that's one of the contractors on the cabin that we're building. And he said that he's got a snowmobile. The house came with 2 snowmobiles, and that didn't come with it, but he saw it. We rode him around. He loved them, and he bought them, and he left them there with the house, these 2 snowmobiles. We rode up. It was like 20 of us, right? We just loaded up all these trucks, and we drove them out to the base camp, and we drove up the mountain like at sunset. And it was fucking the coolest shit ever. We all had snowmobiles. They all had headlights, and it was starting to get a little bit dark. We go all the way up to the top. It was the coolest thing ever. And so we go in this little cabin, and everyone's digging through their backpacks. I'm like, what are these motherfuckers pulling out? And they all got fucking meat that's been marinating. And it's like an open fire, and we're making hot toddies, and everyone takes their winter clothes off, the jackets and the gloves.
Involuntary facial expression when I talk about we pull out meat and it's been marinated. We're about to get ham on some ham and some ribeyes. Oh, I'm excited.
And they clicked it all on the open fire up in this little cabin that was like a snowmobile cabin up in the top of Lake Chelan. It was fucking awesome.
Pixar movie.
No, it was amazing. So coming down the mountain, it's pitch black. I'm like 3 snowmobiles behind. So it's him, and then 2 people, and then me. And so I'm trying to, again, I'm personal assistant at this point. It was like earlier on.
But it gets murky because like, yeah, you work for the guy, but that's also your homie. So it's like,
yeah, we're also best friends, and I'm also, I want to keep an eye out for him too. You know, like I want to make sure he doesn't do anything bad. Scott wasn't always good on things like that, so I was a little worried. Anyway, we come down the mountain. By this point, it's pitch black, probably 2 a.m. You know, it's freezing out. It's pitch black. There's no moon, you know, it's just dark. The only way you can see is headlights. And there was like probably 20 snowmobiles coming down. And
how did this so quickly shift from a Pixar movie to a fucking Blair Witch Project sequel?
So I see him and I'm trying to keep an eye on which one's him so I can watch him, you know? Next thing I know, fucking a set of headlights goes.
Oh my God.
Off the cliff, it's a mountain.
What happens in your brain when it sees headlights go?
The first thing I saw was the headline. Yeah, on my watch, you know. So I pull down to where he is, and he's sitting on the edge of the mountain. And he's like, and he just goes, well. He goes, well, I guess I did it again, Rocco.
But he was all right. Didn't break anything.
It was totally fine. No, he just went around the corner and just went. These were like racing snowmobiles. They weren't like off the shelf. They were like, you know. So he just gave it a little too much and fucking and just got out from under him, threw him off the back, and the thing just launched off the fucking hill. And the local guy somehow he went down and got it, and he drove it up the hill, and he came up the mountain and just like whoosh, poof, and landed up on the road with that thing.
Mountain people are crazy, man.
So that's the trilogy of small motorized adventures, misadventures.
That's awesome. If I don't tell you enough, just in general, thank you for being such an amazing friend and a mentor and somebody who I've been reliably able to look up to for 12 years, you know, and shit gets hard. There's moments where stuff gets difficult, but knowing that I got people like you in my corner rooting for me and actively supporting me, you know, all right, hey dude, let's figure out why the vocal is phasing. Let's figure out your signature. Let's figure out, you know, whatever it is. It's been unbelievably meaningful and helpful. And there's no doubt in my mind that like without you specifically in my life, I wouldn't be the musician that I am today, wouldn't be the person I am today, man. You know, you've made a difference in my life. And that's not just me being a couple glasses of whiskey deep. Like your friendship has meant a lot to me over the years, and it's been special, man. I'm so glad that you wrote me back on MySpace, and I'm glad that you took a chance on the punter. Yeah,
I didn't block you. Yeah, exactly. No, I mean it's mutual too, you know, because I mean there's been times when you were the only one there, literally, you know, and there's no words for that, man. You know.
All right, so where can people find you, link up with you if they want to find more of your shit, do a little bit more of a dive on the stuff you've done or the stuff you're working on? Touch a little bit finally on the Trash Dogs record of like, so this Trash Dogs record that you mentioned you're working on, is it finished? It's recorded, right?
It's 99% recorded. Yeah, it's a rock and roll record. It's like a blues-based rock and roll record. I don't know when we're gonna put it out. This whole COVID thing is just a weird time, you know.
It's fucked everything.
But the record is done. It's mostly mixed, and my website is just roccomusic.com. Instagram, Rocco Music. Twitter, Rocco Music. It's all Rocco Music. Facebook.
Nice.
Yeah.
This is the second podcast that you and I have recorded together. The first time we did a podcast was pre-COVID, was like end of February. I went down to visit you. We were staying down in San Diego for a minute. Yep. And we did this in person. We were sitting next to each other. It was a very different experience than what it has been trying to do this through Zoom. And
same result though, just rambling idiots.
Mostly bullshit, mostly dumb stuff. But if you remember, at the end of that same 6-7 hours of us bullshitting, you coined a catchphrase that my guest is going to now. The tradition of this podcast will be that my guest signs us off with. Do you remember the catchphrase you came up with? Because if you do, before you say it, if you remember the catchphrase, I'm going to let you say it and we'll sign off that way.
Don't be a dum-dum. No, I don't know. Was that what it was?
That's the
it was? Oh my God. Okay, let me do it again. I was like 80% sure, but I wasn't sure.
It's not. It's the curse of the fucking of the you fucks.
Up to the plate.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. He's the shit in practice. Just draining them in practice, and then 0 for 12 from the field.
Whack-a-mole key signature.
Alright, I got it.
Well, we just give you a chorus just so you can...
Sure.